According to the House of Representatives, the Armed Services Committee, the Air Force is committed to reducing suicide with amongst its ranks. Hello, I'm Terry Ferguson, and what I'd like to talk to you today about is the Wingman program, suicide statistics, and the Security Forces career field and why it's a high-risk career field for suicides. But let me start off with that Wingman program that I'd mentioned. Again, that's a time-honored tradition amongst pilots going way back to when aviation first started, where pilots, as they're flying along, and this aircraft received any damage, mechanical problems, then this aircraft could identify that, radio that back, talk to the pilot, help get them the assistance they need. Or God forbid, if this pilot had to parachute out, then this pilot could radio back and give that location to hopefully get a rescue team out to that pilot. Well, the Air Force today is committed to that same time-honored tradition, and what we're trying to do is we're pulling all airmen and civilians together to make sure that we never leave an individual behind. How are we doing that? We're doing that if we see somebody depressed or having financial problems or physical fitness problems or spiritual problems. We're trying to step in and be that friend, that buddy, that BFF, somebody to make sure that that person's okay and get them the right help they need. Well, statistically speaking, that same Armed Services Committee said in 2010, the average statistic rate was 15.5 airmen per 100,000 within the ranks. I'm glad to say in 2011, that reduced to 14 per 100,000. Now, you may not think that that's a big reduction. However, let me tell you, if you save that one life, it's well worth the amount of time and effort that you put into it. Because maybe that life you saved is somebody's mother, father, sister, brother, daughter, son, and so on and so forth. Every life is precious, and we got to do everything that we can to protect that life. I also told you why I thought the Security Forces career field was one of the most high-risk career fields. Well, again, according to the Air Force fact sheet on the Wingman program, the Air Force Security Forces and the Air Force Maintenance career fields are two of the highest. Let me tell you why the Security Forces is probably up there amongst the top. And that's probably the long shifts that we have. If an average shift is an 8-hour day, our security force members are putting in 10 hours. If it's a 12-hour day, our security force members are putting in 14 hours. And the reason that is when we get there first, we got to make sure that we get our weapons drawn from the armory. We got to stand guard mount, and then we got to go and relieve the next person off a post and wait for that whole cycle to happen. And at the end of the shift, it's in complete reverse. We get relieved of post, then we still got to go back to the armory and turn in our weapon and equipment and get prepared for the next day's shift. Well, another reason is the deployment rate. With the horrible events of the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and Flight 93, those terrorist attacks on our country on September 11, 2011, we've seen our deployment rate increase to about a 1-to-1 at its peak. What do I mean by that? For every month that you were deployed, that was a month that you got to stay at home. So if you deployed for 6 months, then you got to stay home for 6 months before you were expected to go back again. Now, over the last couple of years, we've seen that drop quite a bit, which is allowing our airmen the opportunity to spend a little bit more time with their family at home. The third reason might be the stigma associated with it. By the way, we are the Air Force Security Forces law enforcement. We basically protect and serve within the Air Force. And the stigma that goes to suicide, or we make fun of somebody because they're feeling down or having financial problems, so we're less likely to speak out and ask for that assistance. But I wanted to let you know that we are trying to change that with amongst our ranks to get our folks out there talking to one another to make sure that they're okay, and we're making it acceptable to share when you're having problems and not go to post. Well, again, what I talked about today was the Wingman concept. I talked a little bit about statistics, and I told you why the Security Forces career field was one of the highest amongst our career fields out there. But let me wrap it up with a little Mother Goose nursery rhyme that you may have heard out there, and that's Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. But as a wise chaplain once told me, that's not necessarily a true statement. Because Humpty was having problems. Humpty was having financial problems, marital problems. He wasn't very fit. Obviously, you've seen that from the nursery rhyme itself. And also, I don't know what kind of spiritual problems that he was having, but all things were stacked against him. But let me tell you, folks, if any one of those king's horses, any one of those king's men had noticed that Humpty was having problems and stepped in, maybe Humpty wouldn't have jumped off that wall. Maybe Humpty would still be living life today and enjoying his family. So let me ask each and every one of you, hug somebody today. Help them out. God bless.